We're here at the Clips channel, whole 9 yards. Drew Penny with Brandon Krikorian. Just finished recording an actual podcast episode. I will throw the link in the description. Brandon, how's it going? We're going to be reacting to, you suggested this, Sports Illustrated top 15 players for 2022.
Yeah, this was something that came out earlier today. The top 100 has been coming out the last couple of days, but the top 15 came out earlier today, this morning. So I thought it was good, a good thing to react to. We haven't done NBA in a little bit. Obviously, the season ended, so it's a good starting point, I think, for the season as it gets back on track in the next month.
Yeah, I'm super excited for NBA. I've missed it. As much as I love off seasons, I like the regular season probably more. And this offseason, frankly, just didn't have many high quality name free agents. So we'll start from 1 and go to 15. I think it's hard to go from 15 and go to 1 in this case, just because this is tough.
Yeah.
They have KD at number 1. What's your first take?
I would agree. And I think people would probably argue Giannis there because of the finals and everything, but I think KD was the best player on the planet last year. And it showed, and I know he lost in the playoffs and everything, but it showed. I mean, in those performances against the Bucks when he was putting up 49 points and basically had no help, it showed he was the best player on the planet, and I don't have any problem with that. I think if you want to argue Giannis, you could argue it, but I think KD's the best player right now.
I would agree. I think he's going to be the best player in 2022. They're probably my finals pick to win the finals. And if he wins the finals as the best player on the best team, even though that team is stacked, it's going to be hard to argue he's not the best player in the world. I think Giannis is close. I think LeBron is close. I think you could honestly, any three of those players, 1, 2, 3, I'm pretty much fine with. So yeah, but I would probably lean KD 1 as well.
Yeah.
Number 2, my phone just turned off. Number 2 they have as Giannis. Again, I'm fine with it. I'm not going to argue KD 1, Giannis 2, and they have LeBron at 3. I mean, that was obvious. I'm just going to say it. I'm not going to argue whatever position you guys have that in. To me, I'm fine with whatever you want to have it. I would probably have it KD 1, LeBron 2, Giannis 3. But it's like, if you want to say Giannis is 1, sure.
Yeah.
There's different cases to be made for all these. Giannis is the best regular season player out of these guys. KD's the best, probably the best closer and the best just shooter out of these three, and LeBron is just probably the most dominant force, and if plays like he has before is the best. But I mean, we don't really know right now, and he kind of just did come off a dud of a season, at least in the postseason with injuries. So
yeah, and I think you could have 1 or 2 flip-flop. I think that's fine. But I think LeBron is cemented as 3. I don't think you can argue him being top 2.
I think you could.
I don't think you can. I think Giannis, I think what he showed last year in the playoffs and the finals, and again, injuries, he probably played a team that probably wouldn't have been in the finals if there weren't injuries, but still, he played who was in front of him, and he dominated. I mean, he put up 50 points in a closeout game after being down 0-2. That's pretty impressive. So I think they're ahead of LeBron right now. Maybe that changes after this season because, again, the Lakers, assuming they're healthy, will be the first or second best team in the league most likely. So maybe it changes, but I think LeBron is 3rd, and I don't see how people can really argue that at this point.
I mean, the argument to be made is, although those things are true, this is a list for 2022, and those things are irrelevant. It's who do I think is going to be the best player in 2022. Giannis is going to be the best regular season player. I just have no doubt in my mind. But come playoffs, if LeBron's healthy, it's like really tough to not want to have LeBron over Giannis still, even after last year. It's really still tough because he really never did it against, like, I hate to say it, but he really never did it against, like, any of the favorites. So
he did beat the Nets, but
without their second.
No, I know,
player,
but I see what you're saying, and I would rather have LeBron when it comes to playoffs as well. But
I mean, isn't that's like, to me, that's what we're essentially talking about.
I guess, but you can't just throw away what happened in the past, though.
But this is top 15 players.
But it's also based off of last year, though.
But I'm going off of, like, I don't care what happened last year for this list.
I'm just saying that's what this list is based on because
no.
As we get 2 more spots on the list, then you'll see why someone is there. That if you didn't look at last year, he's probably not there. So
no, I know it is based off last year, but this is like a prediction for next year.
Yeah, I know, but I know what you're saying, and I think you know what I'm saying. But I still heavily relied on last year to.
I do too.
Based on my picks for next year. So
I do too. I don't think what Giannis did is enough for me to. It's close. I won't argue it. We'll go to 4. They have Steph at 4. I have Steph at 4 as well.
Yeah, I think I have Steph at 4. Coming into last year, we didn't know what to expect, but yeah,
maybe Steph's underrated at 4. I mean, there's a real argument to be made he's underrated at 4. There are a lot of people that like the Warriors.
Yeah, I don't know how he could be top 3. I just don't think he can. I think 4 is a perfect spot for him. And the Warriors, we'll see it this year. I mean, if they trade for Simmons, they don't trade for Simmons, we don't know. But if they don't, I think their team is good enough to be a top team in the West. But are they winning a championship? I don't think so. I think the Lakers are better than them. The problem is there's just no Clippers because Kawhi is really not going to play this year. A Nuggets, a Mavs. Some people are really high on the Mavs this year. So we'll see, but maybe, I don't know. I don't think they can win a championship, but I think Steph's the 4th best player in the league.
I'm saving my championship predictions for later, but I think there is a chance I have Steph underrated at 4. That's all I'll say. I do have him at 4, though. They have Jokic at 5. No, I'm sorry. And
this is the guy I was talking about. And I'm just going to say the 6th guy, it's Luka. Luka should be ahead of Jokic. Luka is clearly better than Jokic. And I really do like Jokic, and a lot of people are talking about how he's so underrated. Like, he was the most hated on MVP. And I somewhat agree with that, but Luka is a better player than Jokic. He's just a smaller version of him, which I think is better. You'd rather have a smaller version of that guy because he's going to have the ball more than a center would have the ball. And even though Jokic has the ball a ton, it's never going to be as much as a point guard like Luka. So I'd rather have Luka. Over Jokic.
No, I'd 100% rather have Luka over Jokic. He's still a better playmaker than. I mean, Jokic is an insane playmaker and has insane guard skills for a center, but Luka has those skills and is just better
and he's also just a guard.
He's also just a guard.
He's not a center,
he's
so
quicker.
Exactly.
Even though Luka's not a quick guy, he's still quicker. He's just better. He's better in almost every single way, really.
Yeah.
Other than the fact that he's not big. But
would we just flip-flop them, or would you move Jokic down even more? Because we have a couple guys.
I would probably move Jokic down more.
All right, so let's start. So number 7 is James Harden.
I would have Jokic below Harden.
A healthy Harden on this Nets team, I think I'd rather have him because he's such a different player, with just passing. Like, literally all he cared about as soon as he got to the Nets was passing. That's why he was averaging, I think he was averaging 11.5 assists when he went to the Nets. And if he was healthy, the shooting was there, the scoring was still there. You could put up 24 points and still be as efficient and as dynamic as he was when he was in Houston. So, yeah, I think this James Harden is easily the best version of him that we've ever seen. So, I would agree.
Embiid at 8. Are you pushing him below Embiid? I want to, but I'm not. Just because I think they're pretty close. They're slightly different. I mean, Embiid's the more dominant force. He's a better defensive player, but Jokic still has some insane playmaking skills and is essentially a guard in a big's body. They're really close, don't get me wrong. The reason that I'm going to put Jokic above Embiid is I think Embiid's a better player slightly, but I mean, Embiid's not going to play 82 games, and he's just injury prone. There's a chance he's not playing in the playoffs. Jokic, I have no reason to believe he's not going to play in the playoffs. And in a list like this, I don't want to bet on injury. I'm not betting on injury. I just think that there's a slight chance Embiid gets injured for a lot of games. He's not going to play all 82. That's just a guarantee. And there's really way less of a chance Jokic is going to get hurt, and they're almost the same player, so I would have Jokic one spot above Embiid for that reason.
Yeah, and I think Embiid is the better player, but for a list like this, I'd probably have Jokic over him because, the things that you said, Embiid's not going to play every single game. He's just not going to. When the playoffs come, who knows what happens at that point as well, but who the actual better player is, I think it's Embiid, and I'm not going to say clearly, but I'm pretty close to saying clearly. I do like Embiid more than Jokic, but he has so many problems with them. I don't again, there's some times where he just doesn't do what he's supposed to do, and he's injured or he's just not focused or whatever. But I mean, talent-wise and dominant-wise, it's for sure Embiid. But for a list like this, yeah, I'd probably have so Luka would be 5, Harden 6, Jokic 7, Embiid 8.
Yeah. Would you have AD 9, which is what they have?
I mean, that's. If he wasn't injured last year, he's obviously higher. Because I think coming into last year, he was number 4 on the list. I want to say, at least the ESPN one or the Sports Illustrated one, he was number 4. Which, if a healthy AD, I think is at least 6. So, I probably would have him higher, but with the injuries and everything, I think 9's fine. I don't have a problem with that.
Yeah, no, I think 9's fine as well.
Yeah. But if he was healthy, I think you'd agree he'd be higher up though.
Well, who would he be higher than?
I think him and Embiid honestly are a conversation. Even Harden, because just the team that Harden's on, like he's the second guy, technically even third guy if you want to say it like that. So I think that's a conversation. But I think 9's fine. I just think if he was healthy and he had the year that he had in 2020, this past year, I think he'd just be higher. There's no way he'd be number 9. So
I don't disagree, but I find it really tough for me to find room to put Embiid higher at this point right now.
Embiid or AD?
Sorry, AD. Sorry.
Yeah, I think at this point it's tough, just because of what happened last year and everything. So that's why I think 9's fine. But I think he would be higher up if he was healthy. That's all.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't know who I'd put him above. Really, honestly, I don't disagree with you that he would be higher, but right now.
Yeah, I guess.
I mean, it would have to be Jokic, honestly.
Because the guy after AD, he'd be higher as well.
So this is the one that's weird to me. Why is he even on the list? He's not.
I don't know why he's on the list. He's not going to play.
Just I'm not disagreeing. I'm literally just going to ignore Kawhi, because if Kawhi was healthy, I would have him as number 4 and number 5.
Yeah, exactly. I was going to say he's either number 4 or 5.
And if he's not healthy, then I'm just not having him on the list. So what's the point of putting him in some random?
Because if he does play this year, it's literally going to be 10 games.
Yeah.
He's not, and I honestly would be surprised if he even plays, because not only did he get injured, obviously the extended season last season, but he waited to get the surgery for a month. So it's not even like he got the surgery the day after. He waited a month to get the surgery. So he got the surgery in August, I think, or July or whatever it was. So, when is he? I think he got it after the finals were done. So I don't know how he's even going to play this year. So I don't know.
I don't. Kawhi 10, I'm just ignoring.
Yeah, I think that's I would ignore that as well.
Dame at 11, I think that's pretty solid placement. I would have him just below the AD, Embiid, Jokic tier.
Yeah.
It's hard to compare those guys, but I have those guys as better than Dame, and I would have Dame right below them.
Yeah, because the guys after Dame aren't on his same level, so I think that's a good spot for him.
Yeah.
And the guy after Dame is, do you have anything else on him?
No, I don't.
It's Paul George at 12.
Too high for me. Too high. Not consistent enough. He's just not consistent enough. If he plays like how he does in the playoffs when Kawhi was out and he kind of had to carry that team, yeah, he's around 12. But that's his ceiling. His ceiling is 12. And they have his ceiling playing at his peak level the whole year? No.
I think that's what they're banking on, was that the way he played last year without Kawhi is how he's going to play this year. But again, that's going to be 70 games, 80 games. We'll see. I don't know. I wouldn't say I disagree with 12, but I think he definitely could be a spot or two lower, and I wouldn't be upset.
I honestly don't know. I don't know that he's even in the top 15.
I think he is.
I think he's...
Even with the way he played with Kawhi, he's still around that 15 level, and then the way he played without Kawhi, I think people kind of maybe forget how he played without Kawhi. He played really well without Kawhi.
I have Tatum above Paul George.
I wouldn't disagree with that.
Okay.
But I think, would you have Paul George outside your top 15 of the guys on this list? Would he be behind?
Out of the guys
15?
on this list, no.
Okay.
But what about Devin Booker? So they have Devin.
Devin Booker at 16.
Who I would have Devin Booker.
Here, let me see if I can get a full list of it. But
yeah, it's Booker 16, Young 17, Chris Paul 18, Kyrie 19, Zion 20. Gobert 21, Bam 22. I'll kind of stop here. Cat 23, Mitchell 24. Mitchell 24 is really, really low.
Yeah, it's weird that Cat's in front of him.
Ja 25, Middleton 26, Jalen 27. This is already starting to get to play.
I think Simmons is 28.
Simmons is not 28. Holiday's 28.
Oh, what list? I was looking at an ESPN list or something.
Levine 29, Shea 30. That's what I have, up to 30. So
I was there was an ESPN list that had Simmons at 28.
I think Simmons is underrated. I'm just gonna say it. I know what happened after last year, but
I don't know. I've always liked Simmons, but
it's hard to defend his actions.
It's hard to, and again, I guess he is holding out a camp, which I think was expected. So we'll see what team he even ends up on. I've heard a lot of stuff saying that they probably won't even trade him before the season starts because there's just not going to be a team to trade him to.
I've kind of thought that. I didn't think that he was going to get traded.
But he even though they won't trade him, he's not going to play.
No, I know.
Yeah. They're just going to pay him, I guess. I don't know.
I mean,
He still has 4 years on his contract.
That's fine. Let him rot. I mean, like, am I going to trade him for,
Well, one thing I heard was that if they do play him and he plays and they're playing really well, then they're not going to want to trade him, which Simmons wants to get traded, so he's not going to want to play. That's some of the back and forth that the Sixers do want to play him because obviously you're paying a guy 4 years, $140 million. You want to play him obviously because you don't want to waste that money. But if they start off really well, which they would if Simmons is in there, then like they're probably less inclined to trade him because they're playing well. They're one of the better teams in the East, let's say. Then that's not what Simmons wants. So it's a weird situation, to be honest.
It's weird.
Especially because there's 4 years left on the contract.
I don't disagree with what they're doing right now. I don't disagree at all.
I don't either, yeah.
I mean, I'd rather just not play him. I mean, I'm not trading him for Marvin Bagley, a first, and Buddy Hield.
No.
Like, you're just not going.
And I think that's the best trade offer right now.
That's the problem, though, is like I need a trade offer that takes me from whatever I am right now to either on the same tier or better. And
because again, they're a team that's still competing. Even though I don't think they could win a championship, no matter who they get back, or even with Simmons, they still think they're a top 3 team in the East, one of the top 7 teams in the NBA. So
I mean, they can be a couple injuries, and they are a competitor. I mean,
yeah,
they arguably are a legit competitor right now. I wouldn't agree with that take, but it's still arguable. I mean,
yeah.
When you're in that spot, all it takes is an injury to Kyrie or an injury to Harden or an injury to KD, and you're a legit competitor.
Yep.
With Simmons. So anyways, they have Paul George at 12. I would probably have Paul George at like 15, maybe 14. I would have Tatum above him. I would have Tatum at 12. Jimmy, I would have Paul George above Jimmy right now. So I would have Jimmy at 14, I guess.
Yeah. I think it's close, but I think Paul George is he's like the better, like if they had their own teams, which technically they do, but really Jimmy, like when you have Bam, now you have Kyle Lowry also, it's a better team than I think the Clippers have as in the role players, obviously without Kawhi. So I do agree. I think Paul George is just slightly over Jimmy, even though I really like Jimmy Butler.
I do too. People will bring up the finals run because he didn't, but like, no. I mean, that was before what Paul George just did, and those are to me.
Yeah, and Jimmy was really good last year, but Paul George was better.
No, for sure.
So, yeah.
They have Beal at 15. I like Booker and Mitchell more than Beal.
Yeah, I like Booker better. Yeah, Mitchell at 24. I wouldn't have him like top 15 or anything, but he should be top 20. But Booker, I think Booker should be 15. The way he played last year, and the way that he's basically Beal, but a better version of Beal. So
they have Young at 17, Trae Young at 17, and Mitchell at 24. To me, that's agreed.
And they also have Kyrie at 20. Say what you want about Kyrie, but Kyrie's on the 20th best player.
So you think he's higher?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I would agree. I would have Kyrie as a better player than George, just if they're both playing at their talent, no ego, no nothing. But I can't do that, so I have.
Well, yeah, I mean, I wouldn't put Kyrie top 15, but I'd have him above Trae Young.
Yeah, for sure.
Like I think it should be flip flop, where it should be Young at 20 and Kyrie at 17, to be honest. But
I would have Mitchell somewhere. So if wherever you want to put Beal, Booker, I would have Mitchell in that. So you know how we have Embiid and Jokic next to each other? I want Booker, Beal, and Mitchell all next to each other because I think they're that close.
Yeah.
And I think it's like, what play style do you prefer?
And I think it'd go Booker, probably Mitchell, then Beal.
I think it's very close.
It's definitely Booker's the best player out of those two.
I don't think it's definite.
I think it is. I think Mitchell's really good, but there's just something about him. It's just like, there's something about him. I don't know. Something I've never liked about Mitchell.
I would have Booker at number 1 too, but I don't think it's definitive. I would have Mitchell at 2. I think Mitchell's the best defender of the 3.
When he tries, I guess.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not expecting defense out of Booker, but
no, I know.
I think Booker's honestly a better ball handler than Mitchell. A better,
sure. No, yeah,
better that. Like I think if they were because technically they're both shooting guards. Because Mitchell is a shooting guard. If they were both play point guard, I'd rather have Booker be my point guard because he's more of like a passer.
Yeah, sure.
He did average 7 assists 1 year.
And I think Beal's puts up the most points.
Yeah, Beal's like
a better scorer.
Beal's a perfect 3 on a team because what he does is he just scores points. He'll get you like he can easily get you on a better team with better players. He'll give you 25 plus every single night.
You have Beal as better than Middleton, right? I do. I have all 3 of those guys above Middleton.
I don't know.
Middleton.
I mean, as a player or on a team.
As a player.
As a player, I think it's probably Beal, but I think it's still close in that aspect. But for a team, I'd rather have Middleton.
I disagree.
50, 40, 90 with really good defense. I think I'd rather have that. I know he's really inconsistent, and again, he did prove a little. He definitely showed that he was inconsistent in the playoffs, but he also showed he was pretty consistent at points.
I mean, Middleton,
and again, I've never been a big Middleton guy, but if he can just play like that, like he did, I don't know. I think
he still didn't play well enough for my standards to be above those guys.
I mean, some of those possessions at the end of those games, that was all him.
I mean,
some of those shots he was making.
Sure.
I don't know if Beal makes. I don't know if Beal makes those shots, to be honest.
I don't know, but I think he does, and I think. I just think Beal's a better player. I'm sorry. I do.
I think the better player might be Beal, but the better team guy and the better all that, I think it's Middleton.
I still think it's Beal. I think he's just too much of a better player for me to consider the fact that Middleton's like a slightly better team fit. But yeah. So I'd have Lillard. So we're pretty much in agreement with this list though. The only one that I like really disagree with would be Mitchell at 24, but we're getting pretty low. Like we're getting pretty far down that list for me to disagree with something like that.
Yeah.
How do you? So Kyrie was at 19. How do you feel?
20.
No, he was 19.
Oh, he was 19.
Yeah. How do you feel about Zion at 20?
Yeah, I'm just thinking. I'm thinking the ESPN one. Zion at 20. Who is 21?
Gobert.
Yeah, I think 20 is fine. He's not better than Kyrie, and he's better than Gobert, so I don't have a problem with that. And again,
better than Trae Young.
I think he will be better than Trae Young, but right now he's not.
I think. Well, okay. So this is for 2022. I mean, I would have
Zion
above.
I think Young, the way that Young played last year, the way he changed his game, that's the most unstoppable Trae Young there's going to be in any play style that he plays in. So I haven't seen that from Zion yet, so you can't say that. Zion also needs to be healthy. I don't even think Zion's going to be a Pelican after this year. You see the report that came out a couple of days ago?
Well, I've
like
seen
David Griffin and all of that.
What's the most recent report?
Well, I mean, I don't even know if it was technically about Zion, but like ever since Zion got there, he basically has no relationship with David Griffin, their GM. The coach. They just got a new coach, Willie Green, now. I don't know if they've even like had formal conversations yet. Seems like he's basically wanted out since he got there. They held when he first got injured his rookie year. They held him out longer than they said 6 to 8 weeks. He was held out for 3 months. The bubble, he left early. David Griffin tried to like talk to him there. That didn't really work out. They've tried to talk since. They don't talk. Like it seems like a lot of he almost has like a Kawhi thing going on, where like it's a lot of behind the scenes things, and he won't talk a lot. But it seems like he wants out, to be honest. And if they have a bad year this year, I really wouldn't be surprised.
He definitely seems like he wants out. The only thing is like he has to turn down so much money, much money,
because this will be his 3rd year in the league, right?
I watched a video on it probably a month or 2 ago. He has to turn down. I have to get the specifics. I have to pull up the specifics about it.
Well, because of course he'll get the Supermax from the Pelicans. That's the only team he could get a Supermax from. So it's probably I think it's like $40 million.
You'd have to play on the qualifying offer too to become an unrestricted free agent.
Because he, but depending on the year he has this year, he could be eligible for the Supermax. I think it's 196 or it's 210 or one of those numbers. It's depending on how many all NBA teams you've made, and that's how it works. Like the All-Star, NBA, if you won MVP, whatever. So assuming he makes an All-NBA team, then he gets a boost in it. Like that's what Tatum got, or Mitchell, like they got that.
Yeah.
So that comes into play obviously. So he could like possibly turn down like $40 million extra.
He's gonna turn down $40 million extra, and he's going to have to play essentially for free for 1 year because he has to play on the qualifying offer, which is like, I think, $7 million or something. So he has to essentially play for free for 1 year just to be able to be an unrestricted free agent. So
because he's a restricted free agent in 2023. So after this season, he's a restricted free agent. Right? Or no, after next season.
After next season. but he'd have to play on the qualifying offer. He'd have to decline every offer, play on the qualifying offer for like $6 million.
Yeah, so after this season, right now, the way it works, again, he hasn't made an All-NBA team, obviously. He's eligible for 5 years, 181. And if he gets an All-NBA team, obviously that, boosts it up. Whether it's third, second, or first, it's going to boost it up. So
he's essentially passing up on at least $60 million.
And the qualifying offer for 2023-2024 is $17.5 million.
Not only is he passing up on like $60 million, but he knows he's a guy that's at risk of injury. And if we see a torn ACL or if we see a torn Achilles out of Zion, teams just become hesitant with that. I mean, his value goes down. He may not get the amount of years he wants. It's risky for Zion. I mean, there's a chance he does it, but nobody's ever done it before. Nobody's ever really done it before. The closest you've gotten was AD, where he still takes the money, but then after a few years, he's like, all right, I'm not playing anymore. I want to trade. But then if he does the same thing that AD does, we're talking like 6 or 7 years down the line from now, which at that point is so far down the line that whatever. So
that'll be something to look at.
It will be something to look at. I don't know what my prediction would be. We'll have to monitor it, and we'll have to talk about it later.
Yeah, we'll have to see how they're doing this year, because I don't think they're going to be that good this year. So
I hope they're good. I don't think
they will be.
I don't have too much faith. But we pretty much agree with this Sports Illustrated list. I mean, we agree with the top 4 in whatever order you want to have them in. We agree with the top 3, whatever we want. We agree with Steph at 4.
Luka at 5.
Which they had Jokic. All we do is we bump Jokic a couple spots down. We ignore the Kawhi thing, and then we pull Mitchell from 24 closer to 20.
Kyrie up a little bit.
Trade down a little bit.
Paul George down a
spot or 2.
Beal down a spot.
Yeah.
Booker would probably slide in. So
but it's
it's pretty much. And again, you probably should agree on it, because the top 5 players in the league are most likely everyone in agreement. So unless you're
just typically with these lists, we typically see like 1 or 2 that are just like out of this world, stupid, and I don't think we really see that. The closest thing to me that is like egregious, just objectively wrong, is Mitchell at 24. I don't agree with Jokic at 5, but I don't think that's objectively wrong. So I think Mitchell 24 is.
I think Mitchell should be ahead of Gobert. And I know Gobert has the defensive stuff, but if Mitchell's not on that team is a nothing team. If Gobert's not on that team, it's still a decent team.
What do you think about Gobert ahead of Cat, by the way? 2 spots ahead of Cat. Gobert.
I don't mind that, because Cat, talent-wise, of course, I'd rather have Cat, but that team is just so bad, and he plays no Cat could not play defense if he wanted to play defense.
Yeah, I know.
And he could shoot. Cat's probably, he's one of the better shooters in the league, which is crazy. From 3, he literally shoots over 40% from 3 on, consistent threes, but he's just, he's such a baby in the post, and he plays no defense. It's a shame, because he should be one of the better players in the league. 7 foot who could run like that and shoot like that, but he just can't.
Yeah, there's a reason he was drafted number 1 overall, and there's a reason that early in his career he was a guy that was slightly out of that Embiid territory, but he was a guy that we all expected to be ahead of. He was a guy that we expected to be for 5+ years the number 1 center in the league.
He was the guy who GMs chose to be their number 1 guy.
Yeah.
So that tells you all you need to know right there.
And he's become this.
Yeah.
Which is still good, just not. It's just he's a softie. He's the softest guy in the top probably 50 players. He's just he's like one of, he's just the softest. He's like the softest guy in the league. It's kind of cringe for me to say that, because I'm not an NBA player, but it's just compared to a Booker. There's literally just it's leagues of, they're just in a different league.
Yeah.
But that's pretty much it. Sports Illustrated top 15 players, we're pretty much in agreement. If you want to, feel free to check out our most recent episode. I'll link our channel in the description, the Whole 9 Yards podcast channel. This is the Clips channel. Appreciate everybody for checking this video out. We're excited for NBA. Obviously, we're pumped for football as well. It's been a pretty fun first couple weeks. Looking forward to it. We'll be back at some point in the future. I'm also going to be releasing a Patriots video, like we talked about, on this channel. So, goodbye.